Good morning. It is Wednesday, the 13th of July, and today we look at the book of Joshua, chapter 3, verses 1 to 13. And this is the account of the crossing of the River Jordan into the Promised Land. It doesn't go from the very beginning with this vast number of people to the very end. We go right into chapter 4 as Joshua recounts the story, and every now and then he'll go back and retell a certain aspect of the story. So it's a long account in total, but today we only looked at the first 13 verses. And there's a sense in which this is a long account because this is a truly momentous occasion. It's been over 40 years in the making. For 40 years, the Israelites were in the desert. Instead of having crossed over significantly earlier, their disobedience, willfully so, caused there to be a delay, and that entire generation that had originally crossed the Red Sea were now no longer around, apart from people like Joshua, Caleb. It is also very significant because we see that in this there is an incredible parallel to the crossing of the Red Sea. And I think that is being done on purpose. Just as the crossing of the Red Sea by Moses was an incredible miracle and it stamped the authority of Moses into the minds of the people, not that it seemed to help very much, certainly the crossing of the River Jordan in a very similar fashion was stamping the authority of Joshua on the people. It was obvious that this was not some special event that Joshua had been able to arrange. This was truly God at work. The third thing we see is that God goes, God goes ahead of his people. There is a sense in which, therefore, God is the first to enter the promised land. He goes in, and that is represented by the Ark of the Covenant, the priests carrying it, stand in the middle of the river as the people continue the journey through. The picking up of the 12 stones and setting that up as a monument at the camp that first night to the people again symbolizes the presence of God. Another point is that we see here God showing the Canaanites who he really is and who actually this God is, that he is more powerful than any of the Canaanite gods, which is represented chiefly by the god Baal. And the Canaanites believed Baal to be the supreme god because he had defeated many of the other gods, including the sea god. And here was God, the real God, Yahweh, standing in the river, causing it to dam up, and showing that ultimately he has authority over the water and the land and over everything. And so it was a real smackdown, as it were, to the Canaanites who believed that their God was the most powerful. And it reinforced who this God is. The Canaanites, as we had heard yesterday through Rahab, the innkeeper stroke prostitute, that the people were terrified of the Israelites because of the crossing of the Red Sea. And here God reinforces this. He truly is the God. And the people are then, in a sense, confronted with a choice. Who do I follow? Do I follow this Israelite God, or do I continue to follow my Canaanite gods? And you certainly see how Rahab had seen the truth. Of course, the other thing, perhaps the fourth and final point to note, is that God is showing his judicial right. He truly is the king of this land. Nothing that any other person or God can do can argue against God reclaiming this land, as had been promised to Abraham and the descendants some 400 and more years before. So God claims this land. Now, how does this relate to you and me? Well, it's interesting because I believe God does go ahead of us, as he did with the Israelites. God goes ahead of us into that danger area, or that scary part of our lives. And so when we encounter it, don't expect God to come and follow you. You don't have to call him as if he's fast asleep somewhere. Perhaps we just have to say, God, in faith, I believe you are not only with me, but you have gone ahead of me and you are there already. Our God claims his right to be the Lord of Lords and the King of Kings, the God of gods in this world. Do we recognize that? This is the choice before us. Do we recognize our God as the God of everything, or do we want to follow some other man-made imagination of a God, even if it's represented by some aspect of power? Remember, Satan and the demons have some spiritual power, nothing in comparison to what God has, but they do have something. Do we follow them or some idol? We can only follow God. So folks, something to think about, and we'll continue the story tomorrow. God bless, and we'll see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.